Alrighty, hello YouTube, welcome back. Today's video, we are getting to the great unveiling of our Advanced Flight Systems panel. Thank you very much, Advanced Flight Systems. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, everyone there who got us to where we are today, and it looks fantastic. In the beginning here, I'll get straight into the panel. I know a lot of you are here just for the panel itself. I'll cover that, but then I also really want to show you what it looks like. Show you the behind the scenes, how we got to where we are today, what it will look like when you use Advanced Flight Systems to do your panel layout, panel design, and all that kind of fun stuff. So then at the very end of the video, we'll also jump into a couple of updates. I moved some things around in the tailcone area here, did a little bit of update on one of the wings, a little fun project, and then probably a couple of other projects along the way. So anyways, let's get to it. Alrighty, there is the panel, and for those of you who don't want to stick around for the fine details, I'll give you a quick little summary, not going into really all that much detail, but you'll see I have two AF6600 screens. Down the center, I have an Avidyne IFD-410. It is the same size as an Avidyne IFD-440, so what this one is missing is it's missing nav and comm. So this is a GPS-only navigator. I'm a IFR platform here, but I don't have nav comm. So you'll see I also do have, since I don't have comm through this unit here, I have a standalone comm unit here, or comm panel, and then I'll also be able to control comm through the panel itself, through the screen itself here. So autopilot control here, Garmin G5 for backup, and then a whole bunch of other goodies, which we're gonna get into the details in this video here. But then on the back side, everything is bench tested by Advanced Flight Systems. Everything is already terminated, ready to rock. You'll notice a lack of circuit breakers. I only have 2 circuit breakers here for PMAGs, and a circuit breaker here for the AC system. These all plug into this guy here, the ACM, the electronic circuit breaker, and it will handle all of my circuit breaking functions and whatnot. It is the brains, the heart, the everything of the operation power-wise. Everything is already terminated by Advanced Flight Systems. So these here, GA plugs, LEMO plugs. I have both sets going to all 4 seats. Whole bunch of stuff. Let's get into the video and actually show you how we got to where we are and why we chose what we did.
All right, so we have we're starting on the 3rd revision of the panel. I did the first one just kind of putting the pieces that I know are going to go there and where they typically go in a semi-arranged fashion, and I sent that to you, and then you gave me some feedback, answered a few questions on other things that needed to be added and how they were going to be, and we've worked up to Rev 2 adding those things in, and now we're going to get a little bit further down the rabbit hole.
Awesome, that sounds good. By the way, random question: how many revisions do most people go through?
Average, I would say, is probably 4 or 5. This is my little internal indicator. Usually it's about even with that, maybe somewhere about in here, you know, 4 or 5 different revisions. And a lot of times the last few revisions are really small. You know, it's, oh, I remembered I needed I want a push to talk button for my Copilot on the panel because I might have the stick removed, or I want another USB charger, or let's change the order of these 2 things. A lot of the final revisions are usually pretty small. The big one, the first couple are usually moving big pieces around, kind of figuring out the general shape. And from there, then we go back and forth.
And I'm electrically incompetent.
Okay, we go here to our support center, to the advanced panel manual, and then we go down to the RV-10 section. Aircraft front harness. See if there aren't any clues. Then I would say it would make the most sense to pick off from the hot side of this with a fuse or a breaker back there to your AC, and that way it's tied to the master. So when you turn the master switch off from the pilot seat, that contact is closed, but you're not running power wires all the way up to the front and all the way back.
Okay, that makes sense. So then the only circuit breaker that'll be on the panel will be that 1 amp
for the control thingy, for the rotary switch.
Okay.
All right, so at the very least, we are going to get rid of that guy. And then just for symmetry for the time being, let's move him to the middle of that. So we're just lined up. Okay. What is next? I would almost think just lining them up vertically would probably work better.
Yeah, I think so. I know the other one that someone mentioned is another person on Slack moving the ELT over to that right-hand side because it's never getting used really flight, hopefully.
Well, as nice as that sound, there's a very specific reason we keep it on the left, and that is that DARs often will not, or will have a problem if the ELT cannot be reached by the pilot with the seatbelt fully tight, as you would in an emergency. So for a retrofit, it's pretty easy to park over on the right side because there's no DAR involved. Argue, if you will, with the validity of where it should be, but as you point out, it's a seldom used item. So it's not necessarily something you want in premium panel space, but I try to keep it on the pilot's 2/3 of the panel so that we don't have somebody with a panel installed trying to get airworthiness whose DAR is squawking over the fact that a very small box is over there instead of over there.
I see the reasoning. So yeah, we'll definitely keep it then.
It could go down here below. You kind of have with the screens up as high as they are to make room for the air, your heat and air vents down here. You've kind of got negative space right over here that could be filled with something. ELT could go down there. Cabin lights dimmer could go down there. There's things that you could put there if you want to. You also don't have to.
I know I'm a random person with this dang flap switch.
Oh yeah, flap switch.
I'm curious to hear. I went through your Facebook page. I was Facebook stalking you guys and saw that switch that you mentioned, that plastic one by Auto. Yes, I was curious how big that thing is.
It's the same size as all the other switches.
Okay.
It's literally the same series.
Oh, okay.
But with the tab. Now what we used to always carry is this one here that is same momentary switch, but doesn't have that little tab that sticks out.
Yeah.
I like the tab. It gives you some physical, tactile. I don't have to look at it, but it, goes in line with the other ones. It looks more fitting. I do like the look of the Aerosport flap switch with the aluminum tongue or paddle on there. That I think that looks really good. It just sticks kind of a ways out. And one of the things we try to avoid is putting that too close to the bottom right corner of the pilot screen, because it's a busy area for your hand. Your row of knobs and buttons all come together down there. It's kind of a place your hand visits frequently, and putting a big giant flat paddle right there where your hand will bump it going between the throttle and the bottom corner of the EFS is something I try to avoid.
Do you happen to have an example of that Aerosport one to compare it to, just to see?
I do have one right here. I just got to tighten some screws down so it stays together and doesn't fall apart.
Cool.
So if I line these up about planar,
substantial,
quite a bit taller. It's way up there.
I can see how that would get in the way. That's like the size of the throttle sticking out.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite prominent.
Okay.
So that's why it's in the carbon fiber Aerosport panels where the switches are all kind of down in a row below, and there's a little well or detent between the pilot's cluster of switches in the center panel. It fits really nice right there because it's kind of tucked back in, so that extra length looks and just feels like it's meant to be. Okay. But an aluminum panel, which if you look at your panel from the side profile, this would probably be among the more proud objects on it.
That cutout panel were those, is it Auto? What's the name of the company? Is it Auto OTTO?
Auto,
okay.
OTTO, yep. The Auto K1 and K2 series. The K1s are the narrows, the K2s are the wides.
Okay, and then the backer plate that it sticks into, are you guys cutting that, or do they come in standardized sizes where it has to be like this one here is a group of 5 wides and 1 single? Are those custom made?
There are a couple ways we go.
Okay.
We have a suite of pre-made switch modules like this one, which is exactly the one we're planning for your panel.
Okay.
Now, the cool thing about these is that on the back side, there is a printed circuit board with a connector that our ribbon cable plugs into. And they're all pressed together, and a couple standoffs hold these front and back pieces together. So very tight, nice, durable module. We make about 4 different versions of this in the lower form, and then we make a few different versions of the master form, some with 2 alternators, one PMAG, 2 PMAG kind of a thing. In cases where we have someone whose switch needs don't fit any of our molds, i.e., the switches that are on this are just in the wrong order, or, there are too many of them or not enough of them, that's when we go to cutting a custom plate, where we cut a piece of aluminum, we press the switches in, and then they get hand wired with fast on connectors, doing a daisy chain to connect everything. So we try to stick within the molds of the things that we have as off the shelf pre-made modules that I can hot swap if this thing has a problem or you drop it and crack the circuit board. I can send you another one right off the shelf. So I try to stick to those if we can. If we can't for whatever reason, then we move into making a custom switch module, and then all the doors are open and we can do whatever we want.
Gotcha.
There are a couple things we can do to customize these. Oftentimes what we'll do is label custom text. Like anybody with a Rotax engine doesn't have an alternator field switch, and every one of our master switch modules has an alternator field switch. Also, every one of these has a boost pump. Every Rotax doesn't have a boost pump. It has two 12-volt pumps with their own switches. So we'll often change the text. Instead of saying boost pump, it might say aux power. Or in some of our YouTubers' cases, it says camera power. And they'll use a circuit that's not being used for its intended purpose to power up camera chargers that are in the wings, you know, nearby where the cameras are. And the cameras are set up so when they get power, they just turn on and start recording. So this is basically your one button click, turn the cameras on and start the cameras rolling and keep them charged. So there are cases where we can just simply change the text here. Other times people want different order of the switches. And of course, this PCB dictates what the order is. But we can, instead of using our ribbon cable harness that's 1-to-1, we can make a custom harness that moves pins from their location here to where they are on the other side to effectively change the order of the switch. So there are some customizations we can do to these, but it gets tricky and is a little bit limited.
Okay.
So oftentimes, if this doesn't work, it's just easier to design a custom switch module, cut that plate, hand wire it, and go from there.
Okay. So would it be difficult to add that auto flap switch on the left-hand side of boost pump? Would that be?
In the switch module, it would be, but it would be very easy to put that switch in the panel right next to it.
Probably part of the reason why I'm dwelling on this whole flap thing. My stick grip, I do not plan on having flap control on it. I'm trying to keep it as minimal as possible. Just have the bare necessities of trim, comm, autopilot disconnect, and that's it, I think. And comm, of course. Yeah, it's part of the appealing thing is looking at that throttle. There being the idea of being able just to keep your palm somewhat near that throttle still and be able to flip up the
I think if we went to this style of switch, I would be a lot less concerned about it being on the left side.
Okay.
So let's do that. Okay. Now those two things are centered from the outside maximum edge of each one. The middle of that is the center line of the panel. That puts the flaps and the boost pump very easily reached from the hand guarding the throttle. I'll finish cleaning up that text here in time. That takes a little bit of zooming in. That's painstaking to watch, but we'll get her done. What else we got?
I got more for you. So my other thing, so looking at the main engine control area, my worry is the crowdedness. So I was looking for influence from others out there. Forget the guy's name, but he had his RV-10 at the Evoke booth this last year at Oshkosh. So it would be similar to this. I don't know if it's going to focus or not, but basically on one side, he has a parking brake. So that parking brake would actually be oil cooler, and the other side is alternate air. So keeping alternate air to the right of mixture out of the way, because theoretically it never gets used. And then oil cooler. Look at you. You already had it. Even the vans, the new revamped one, they had theirs nice and flat. Looked good.
The main thing I try to pay attention to with the throttle plates is anything that has a mechanical push-pull linkage that goes through the firewall should be on this plate. Otherwise, if you have, alternate air knob that's going through the panel, to get the panel out, first we're decaling the airplane and unhooking the throttle, the prop, and the mixture controls from the engine in order to get the whole panel out. Where when they're on a detachable plate, all I have to do is unhook that from the panel, and now it's floating down below with its push-pull linkages, and the rest of it can come out without much effort.
So in that case, so if I'm tracking right, so my heater controls,
they are the only one kind of violating that rule at this point.
I mean, the good thing too with these big old screens is I got, 10.5-inch openings?
Yep. That's why we put the ACM right behind the PFD, because it's then accessible very easily. 4 screws, screen comes out, 2 connectors come off. There's my entire electrical system, and I can reach anything, unplug anything I need to without having to haul more things apart.
Okay, one other question. So I'm looking into batteries. I plan on using an EarthX battery. They have an option for a battery fault indicator.
Yes.
Is that something that can be plugged into the panel, or
yes.
How does that work? How does it integrate here?
So each of these 2 screens have 3 discrete inputs for annunciator, fault, and warning lights. Typically in an RV-10, the pilots, we set up the 3 as pilot door, co-pilot door, and pitot status. So that's a status indicator telling you that the pitot heat is on and working. That leaves 3 more inputs available on the MFD screen for whatever you have that you might want a fault light or a warning light. Some alternators have a alt-out warning, though we typically never use those because we have an ammeter warning that would tell you the same piece of information. But things like EarthX batteries or anything else that has an output that needs a place to, show its magic, whatever it's trying to tell you. A lot of cases, people, especially in the Grand's S21s, really popular to see a low fuel warning sensor in the header tank. So if the header tank quits being refilled and the level starts to drop down, that light goes off, and instead of it being a physical bulb on the panel, it's going to an EFS input. And the big advantage there is now you get an audio alarm. You get a cautionary alarm in the headset. So if you're staring out the window, taking pictures, reaching in back, digging for a snack, or, getting the kids to quit fighting with each other or whatever, and then you come back and look at the panel and there's a light on, you're like, how long has that been on? Oh my God. Whereas as soon as something goes wrong, you get a notice in the headset that snaps your attention back to the panel where it's then flashing red or yellow at you. Are you putting in the factory stall warning little read? Okay, good. That's another thing that often uses an input.
Okay.
But yeah, since you have angle of attack, you really don't need that.
Cool. Those were my notes. I'm going to shoot into your email real quick, see if there's anything else that was top of mind.
While you're doing that, I find every once in a while it's healthy to come out and look in the black and white view, because sometimes things look a little bit different when you're looking at it in the engineering view. So we can turn off some of the extra things like the hidden, the cutout, the washers, the construction lines, and just kind of get it back to how it normally looks. Like, as much as I like that knob lining up with this looks a little crowded here to me.
Yeah.
The oil door. So I think one of two things. Either we move it a little bit further to the left, or there's kind of a vacancy right here that another round switch wouldn't look that bad in, and it still kind of keeps your ergonomic engine controls sort of like a hockey stick. You got a straight line across and then one up.
And if we did that, is there a way we can give it a distinct space? It's like my thought process is whoever is in the right seat, not speaking negatively of people who fly with me, but assume that they
have no business operating an airplane by themselves.
Yeah, don't know what they're touching.
Touch this. Okay, now let's go look at it in black and white. Let's get the construction, the frame, the hidden layer, the cutout, the washers all turned off. I think that looks pretty sweet, if you ask me.
It does look sweet.
Gosh, I really like the way that looks on the left side now.
Yeah, it looks very well planned out.
You need another thing. You've got room. I don't know.
You know, spend more money on things. There's nothing fancy with like the O2 sensor that's all built in or that's all plug in.
It's all plug in. It's remote. Oh, well, you're going to put a RAM mount over there for like a phone or something. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that does leave room.
Okay, I would think making the passenger warning kind of up and leaving as much of the space here down low is better for if it's a phone, reaching out and touching it, easier if it's lower rather than reaching up here trying to touch it.
Yep.
So and you could put the passenger warning at the bottom and leave all the room up above, or you could do the inverse, which is how we have it now. I think if the notion is more than likely it's going to be a cell phone rather than like an iPad or something like that gets clamped there.
Yeah,
I think leaving it that way is good. All right, well, let's let our minds settle on this. If there's more feedback, more things to tinker with, we can do this one more time, or if we're there, we're there.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it.
No problem at all.
can choose the location of absolutely everything on the panel. So starting down low here, throttle prop mixture, alternate air. I don't have a center console. Everything's just gonna be standard stock style push-pull controls on the bottom. Going on over here, you'll notice I don't have a key to ignition. I did a push button start. I will have a hidden kill switch elsewhere. From there, ELT kept that on the left-hand side. I know a lot of people put it over on the right-hand side. Kyle had a little bit of input there, and also I think this aesthetically flows well. And a lot of the decisions here were decided by aesthetics, but I think this panel looks great. But I'm biased. Everyone's panel is different. Generally don't see a cookie cutter panel, but I'm on a tangent. We're going to the middle here. Moving on across from there, beautiful 6600 panel. I have two of them, obviously one in front of each seat. So across from there, this button here, shout out to Pilot Rhino. Ryan, thanks for the input there. We had a couple of phone calls going over each other's panels, which I highly recommend you do when you're designing your panel, is if someone else is designing one too, go side by side, compare them. He had the idea of doing this push to talk button. Reason being, if you're on autopilot and you don't want to be messing with the stick, you can still key up without touching the stick. Or you're running a two-man operation, you can have your co-pilot running comms and they're not touching the stick when they try to key up on the mic. So that is why I have that there. If you're wondering why I have the orientation of that on the right-hand side, I'm a lefty. So I'm designing the panel for me. This just works out really well. I'm left-handed, so I can bump that with my right hand. Still would be easy enough for a right-handed person to be going over reaching with their left hand, but that is why I have that there. And in the center area here, you'll see our end number engraved on a cool little placard there. Autopilot control panel, Garmin G5, and our Dynon comm panel here. These AF6600 screens also do control a remote comm, so we'll be able to tune it from the screen itself, which is pretty neat, but then also have the ability to have the standalone one here for comm. And this here is the RV-10. Down low, this got interesting. This is so subjective, especially since I don't have the center console. I'm gonna be up here with my push-pull controls. I will be able to quickly reach up and hit that flap switch. It is a pretty neat little lever that they offer. I think it aesthetically just really matches well. Everything stays consistent. I do know they have that silver one that's a bit longer. Going on across the way from there, this stayed pretty standard. I did flip some stuff around here. I moved pitot heat off to the right-hand side. I wanted to keep all my lights together and pitot heat stand alone. Another AF6600 screen down low. I have my controls for oil door. So I do have an electronic servo on that oil door. Air conditioning, cabin heat, again, those are electric servos. And then over here, I have a camera power switch, rear accessory switch. Those I will wire in the future. The idea here is I'm gonna run this to a 12-volt outlet in the back. That 12-volt outlet will power our Starlink Mini, which if you watched our cabin top video, is gonna fit right inside of there. So I'll have the ability to turn that off if needed, if I ever encountered interference or something with it. That was one fear that I had, or if I ever needed to power shed. Over here, I did choose to have them add the holes for the quad lock. So this is a phone or iPad mount. And the idea here is that if we want to, this is a nice little dead space area anyways. If whoever's sitting right seat ever wants to have a tablet there or a phone, or we have one of the boys up front and they want to watch a show instead. Anyways, it's already all bench tested. They do that all in the shop there. So I know when I go to put this together, everything will work. If there's anything that doesn't work, it's going to be the dodo behind the camera that causes it to not work. So again, ACM, this is going to be the brains of the operation, the heart of the operation here. So moving on from there, I did choose to get a carbon monoxide detector from, I don't know how you pronounce it, Aether. I like the idea of that. Carbon monoxide is a killer in aviation, and it'll be pretty neat to actually have that incorporated into the screen, so it will actually give me readouts and warnings if I do have an increase in carbon monoxide presence. From there, G5 installation kit, that's for my Garmin G5. Transponder, that is a TCW, that is a backup battery. I've got two comm radios, comm 760s. I have this big old box, which is actually what that GPS navigator came in. When you buy your panel from them, that will not ship in that cage, probably because this thing is kind of unsupported in here, and I really want to damage that navigator. So the cage itself is installed, but the actual GPS navigator is sitting inside of here. So this is what it comes with. Cool little deal with all your paperwork. Again, already pre-wired and everything. This cage, actually, I did take off the back. I'm getting ready to start installing it. So that just gets removed with two small, I think it's small Phillips screws. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Moving on from there, EMS and then ADSB receiver. So yeah, that is everything that you see in the kit. Alrighty, quick little update on the tailcone area. Number one, I have my master contactor on here. I picked this up from Stein because I already had, it was pretty appealing because I already had the diodes on it. And I don't know enough about this stuff going on here, so I figured buy it with what it needs already on it. But anyways, take a look at that product number there. When you order it from Stein, or when I ordered it from Stein, it came with a piece of paper with that product number. If you search that product number, it's actually a B&C product number. And if you order it directly from B&C, it's something like 44 bucks, 45 bucks, somewhere around there. But if you order it from Stein, it's 60. So if you are going to purchase one, probably take a look at B&C and get it directly from the source for cheaper. But that's there. Just wanted to get it there and ready to rock. You also notice my Autopilot wires are there. I did go ahead and choose to use Deutsch style connectors instead of what came with the kit, just because they're so much easier to use and much more foolproof. DTM terminals. That blue tape is where the old ADAHRS bracket used to be. Going back and forth with Kyle for quite a bit. I did have the option of using a remote magnetometer, but then he had mentioned the kit that goes in the RV-14 wing. I thought it was too late to do it, but figured, you know what, let's just go ahead and give it a shot. And I was able to actually get it done. So inside the house, you'll see a couple of really badly dimpled rivets here. And that is where my ADAHRS bracket is now located. It was a pain getting it in there. I did have to do quite a bit of redneck engineering and figure out a way to Cleco it all together, get it up in here, match drill with an angled drill bit. So I was able to fit my DeWalt cordless drill in here. It was hard, but DeWalt cordless drill, a 90-degree bit on it, was able to knock out one and then grab another one. It was hard to do. I also did have a clamp in the corner over here that had to sneak in from the back because this whole bracket here kind of rests on top of that J stiffener. So it is so much easier, or would be so much easier to do this prior to getting this whole skin on. I had no choice, but I'm happy with it. The reason why I mentioned earlier the dimples are a little bit ugly, I stupidly made the mistake of, I knew I wanted to use MK319BS rivets, which I'll come back to here shortly. I don't think you have to do that. But anyways, I had originally planned on using those, so I figured, you know what, let's just go ahead and get it match drilled, and then I upsize them right away to the drill that's required for an MK319, and then use the pop rivet dimpler. And you'll see they don't get a full engagement. They're gonna pass, you're never gonna know, other than you people on YouTube, but it's gonna be on the bottom of the wing skin, plenty sturdy with these rivets. But if I was doing this again, I would actually use solid rivets. You could probably get the standard yoke in here, and if not, then use the no-hole long yoke, and you could probably squeeze all of those. And then if you can't squeeze these end ones, then great, then upsize it, go to the MK319BS rivets on the end. This whole bracket is holding the ADAHRS unit that probably weighs maybe half a pound. So I used this product from 3M on top, where it kind of overhangs the top of the flange. I think this will be plenty strong on the back side. Again, this is on the bottom of the wing. I have rivets on the forward face of it. Yeah, the top is just gonna be adhered using this stuff here. But the way I see it is if that ever was to break loose, which won't happen, but if it ever did break loose, this whole front portion here is held on with rivets. And again, it is a very incredibly light piece of equipment. Other than that, you'll see these are my new lines running into it for, I don't know the order, but I know that's gonna be static, and then AOA and pitot, or pitot and AOA. Either way, all my lines going into the back side of it. Don't know if that's gonna show up on camera or not, but I think it's a pretty clean setup. I have these little guys here, these plastic things. Those are for, actually I went online, I was looking for 90-degree fittings like this, and then found these 90-degree benders, and they keep a nice smooth radius. I think it's for refrigerator ice maker lines or for reverse osmosis lines. Anyways, they work really well. My understanding is with these push to connect fittings, they can have a tendency to leak if there's any kind of a strain on the end of them. So I wanted to get a real nice straight shot at the back of the ADAHRS unit. Other than that though, you'll see I also didn't have to split my ADAHRS line. So again, I went with the Deutsch style connector on the outside here, just super easy to use. And then they have nice little clip fittings that allow me just to put one rivet through. And then this just slides and firmly grabs onto that little clip. Branched off the side of the ADAHRS unit, goes up and around, and then comes over here, and that's my outside air temperature probe, which keeps a nice little clean setup. And then I know some guys put it on the panel itself, but I like the idea of just being able to reach in this access panel and not worry about just connecting the OAT every single time. Alrighty, and at the end here, a quick little strength test. That is this is the same adhesive that I used on the inside of the wing to hold that back part of that the ADAHRS unit flange or whatever to the J stiffener. So made a little test sample. On this side here, I did not scuff either of the pieces of material. I just cleaned them with acetone and clamped them together, or just placed them together and let it cure. This one here, I scuffed the piece as well as the part it was going to, and then again cleaned it. So this is not scientific. This is more for my own satisfaction of testing a test sample here. My plan is just to lift and peel and see if I can get it to come off. There it is. Again, I can't quantify exactly how much weight I'm putting on these things, but let's try this again and just lift up and see what fails. Woo! So I think that will be plenty strong for this application. That is some very, very strong glue. So I'm happy. So I'm going to call it quits. I've had the swamp cooler off to have good audio. So it is hot in this garage. I'm gonna end the video here. Future videos will have this panel going inside of our build, and I'm really excited to be doing that. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you have questions, comments, concerns, feedback, or you just want to say hi down in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Adios.